I mean, a couple more initials by the name, outside of GM, but the role's kind of pretty similar, just in terms of the way we're building and the way we work. Still view Callie very much as my partner, and it's been cool through this transition to get to know him, get to know the coaches and what they're looking for, and how that's going to help us as scouts. Well, I think we're really deep at receiver in this draft and O-line as a whole, which are two areas that we're going to be focusing on. But it's a really deep class, a lot of talented young men, and we're looking forward to meeting with them throughout this process.
With how deep they are, the draft is at both of those positions. Like, how do you weigh a top O-lineman against one of the top receivers, and what you do coming back in the same class?
Again, I think if you look at it strategically, it's about the value, right? So if you're sitting there and there's a receiver there, knowing that there's a deep O-line class, it's like, all right, where can we supplement this position, later. So it's about playing those two parts off of each other, whether that's in free agency as well, and in the draft. So it's about trying to mix and match those two pieces. I like 7, but I'm open. We have to listen to any offers that may come. Our long-term goal is to build this football team into a consistent winner. And the way you do that is building through the draft. And off of that, you need draft picks to do that. So would definitely be willing to listen, but it has to make sense for us. Not really. I would just say, my number one thing is adding playmakers to our team, whether that's offensively, defensively. Just looking to bring people in that love football, that want to be in our place. I mean, if you look at the way our coaching staff was built, we got some of the best coaches available. I think a lot of guys had other offers and could have been in other places but chose to be with us. And that's the talent part about who they are. But if you look at who they are as people and their passion for the game, I think it resonates and it's going to permeate throughout our locker room.
With $90 million in cap space, how much do you have to play that money wisely, but also know that you kind of have a trump card with so much money available?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a lot of cap space. I know that's what everyone is talking about, and how much we have, but we have to spend wisely. We don't want to just load up and just go and spend money. Again, we're trying to build a long-term, consistent thing, and you can't do that spending all $90 million out front. We got to be patient. We got to position ourselves that there are going to be guys that come free in June and July, like when we got D-Hop. That we have to have the space for and be able to afford it. And plus we have to have money for operating costs moving forward throughout the fall, which, I think for most of the season we were in the top 5 in having space available. So we plan to be active, but we're going to be patient and let everything come to us. Yeah, we have to improve on the team speed. I mean, I think that's visible, and we're going to do that. And the name of the game in this league is speed. I think you guys saw that when we played Miami this year, the type of threat that they had, with their fast guys, that, just being able to outflank people with motions and the stress that causes a defense. So we have to be able to match that defensively, but we want to be able to apply that same pressure offensively with speed. Oh, Derrick and I had a good conversation on the way out, and he knows where we are, and we know where he is. I think you guys that have been around, a year know that we don't really talk about, players' contract status in public. But we'll be well positioned to do whatever we need to do. However, when those conversations need to be had, we'll have them with Derrick and his team. Well, I mean, first of all, like Tayjae is a dude that I just described. Like, he's very passionate about football. He loves the game. He's a hard worker, and I think you guys that have gotten to know him know that's how he's wired, and you love that about him. Tayjae's one of those guys that's always in the building. I know there were a lot of concerns about his knee coming out, and that was the big question this time of year and after we drafted him. But we're talking about a guy that never missed a practice, never missed a game, and he's, for lack of a better way to put it, he's made of the right shit. And those are the type of guys that we want to have in our program.
How much do you have to weigh the sentimental with Derrick and the fan aspect of it all versus the team value side?
I mean, it weighs, because I hear that question around town a lot. People will come and the first thing they'll say is, hey, we're not going to lose Derrick, are we? You know, I think I've probably, in my 12 months on this job, have gotten more Derrick Henry questions, you know, than anything. So I understand that piece of it too. But, you know, I have a responsibility, you know, to build this team long term. And like I said, we'll cross that bridge with Derrick and his team when we get there. I think it's like with most young quarterbacks, it's getting playing time, you know, being out there. He spent the earlier part of the season as the inactive third, and then when he got his opportunity to play, he took off and ran with it. So for him, it's continuing to get time on task, and especially now coming into a new offense, getting him in that, getting him knowledgeable of it. And for Will, it's about creating that consistency. When he was at Kentucky, he had multiple offensive coordinators. I think he may have had the same offense maybe twice, you know, in his career. So want to be able to create that consistency for him, get him used to making calls, and get him to where, you know, he's making all the calls and checks up front.
You mentioned, you know, you and Callahan, Hopkins for this whole process. How important is that as you go forward, and how's it going for you working together so far?
I think it's paramount from the simple fact that I'm not designing any schemes or calling any plays. The cool thing that we did is prior to coming here, we had a big profile tape meeting, what we call profile tapes, where each of our position coaches put together what they're looking for, you know, at their respective positions, and it was very, 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 very detailed. And we were in a unique position that all of our scouts, with the exception of 2, live in Nashville. So we had everybody come in the building, and we got in our team meeting room, which is the big enough space to hold everybody. And we locked in for, I think we went with the offense first, and that was a day of 4 hours of where we were in the room going through each one, and then we went with the defense second, and then we'll meet with the special teams coaches when we get back. But again, that's all about us getting on the same page, being able to speak the same language, but then also us as scouts getting to know what the coaches need to make their scheme successful. Yeah, so it's going to be a little bit of a difference. I think there's going to be some carryover on defense, just in terms of structure, but the style will change a little bit. And then I think offensively it'll change, which is where you got to give our scouts grace. They've gone from post-draft last year throughout the entire fall of scouting for one scheme, and then now we're asking them to flip, you know, on the drop of a dime and adjust. And so our guys have done a really good job, and that's why we felt it was, you know, important for them to be in those meetings to see that, and we're giving them the, you know, the leeway to kind of go back and adjust their grades a little to talk about guys that under the previous regime may not have fit, but they now fit us. I won't get too deep into it, just because we're a new staff and, you know, nobody's seen us play yet. But there are subtle differences. You know, like I said, the structure of it being an odd front team, a 3-4 team, if you will, is going to be kind of similar. Our defense has been good, you know, these last couple of years, and it's kind of what the organization has hung its hat on, so we're going to look to keep that going. But there'll be some subtle changes that'll be noticeable when we get out on the field.
What characteristics of offensive linemen change going from outside zone to an offense that Brian used that had a lot of inside zone and shotgun, and those characteristics and prospects?
Well, we got a guy named Bill Callahan, a.k.a. Big Coach, who's one of the best in the business. And I really wish you guys could have seen his profile tape, you know, meeting. It was a clinic. You know, it was a clinic, and everyone left out of there minds blown and coming to the realization that we still got a lot to learn, you know, to come in and what it's going to take to play for him. But I think for a guy like that who's been such a strong developer, you know, of talent at the O-line position, it gives us a little leeway, you know, to bring some guys in and him having a plan on how to develop those guys and get them out on the field.
When you mention a guy like that, how much do you weigh like his ability to develop talent when you're measuring like, you know, a polished, ready to plug-and-play prospect versus a guy outside?
No, I mean, it's weighing what's the best option for us now and where we're taking that, right? So you would want, if you're picking in the top 10, you want about as close to a surefire thing that you can find, which we won't know that for another 3 years anyway. But then there are spaces later in the draft where, you know, you could take a developmental guy because you know you have someone that could develop him.
You mentioned a couple times having all your scouts close. Is there a downside to that where they're not kind of out in the middle of their territory on a more regular basis?
No, I mean that's a good question. I would say no, just because of what social media is now, and just the way you can have access to information on your phone. But most of those guys, they live in Nashville, but they spend a great amount of time in their areas. Um, but I don't think it hurts us at all.
Back to the offensive line, are there guys that are holdovers here, maybe that get a new lease on life under Bill, that maybe didn't quite get or didn't quite perform the way they needed to?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of guys under contract that were here last year that'll get the first opportunity to work with Coach Callahan. But just like anything else, we're going to look to continue to add to that room that allow us to get the best five on the field.
You expecting Andre to get that opportunity?
Well, again, I've never been in the draft room with Coach, with Big Coach, and how he sees it. But definitely take his advice. But ultimately, when we build it, we're going to build it for the best way of the entire organization, and not just so much focus on him and what he's looking for.
You expecting 2 minutes left? You expecting Andre Dillard to be part of the guys that get an opportunity under Callahan?
Well, again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Just again, staying consistent about keeping family business in house. I think I think it's documented. Dre didn't play as well as he probably would have wanted or the way we wanted. But nonetheless, he's still a talented guy that has some physical traits that you can't find.
Ran, how do you like where you are playing at the receiver position and chance to attack that maybe both in free agency and the draft?
Well, I mean, if you look at where Cali comes from, right, you have 3 to 4 guys that are in there a lot. And that are producers, and that's the receiver room is where we're going to continue to look to add some playmakers. Like I said before, we're looking to add playmakers, on both sides of the ball. We need to have people that can put the ball in the paint, and score points for us, and we need people that can take the ball away and create more opportunities for us to score.
Receivers, Ran, one of the things that you talked about when you first before you hired Callie after the Rabel fire was that the vision. You didn't say what it was then. Can you talk about it now that you made the hire?
Yeah, so our number one thing, again, is going to come back to getting the right people in the building. And like I forever say, you look at how we built this staff, it's going to be how we're going to build our football team with the right people. But there's an acronym I like to use, FIT, F-I-T. And where applicable, we want to be fast, instinctive, and tough. If you look at a position like O-line, D-line, you don't necessarily have to be fast, so that F, transitions to being fundamentally sound. And so we think those are the 3 things that you're going to need to build a good football team moving forward. Either being fast, instinctive, and tough, or fundamentally sound, instinctive, and tough.
When you prioritize the people over the players sometimes, or having a combination of both, what things can you guys do in meetings with these players to get to know that person and come away with a good feeling of who they are?
So it starts with taking advantage of the time, right? You only get 20 minutes here. To spend with them. So, staying away from the, hey, where are you from? Where'd you go to high school? We have that information written right in front of us. Let's get to the questions that we really need answered. You know what I mean? If we're talking work ethic, or if they have any quote unquote red flags, that's here. And then also being able to get those same meetings in top 30 when we bring them in our building. And that way you have them for a whole day, and even visiting with them, maybe at their pro days or prior to their pro days. So getting as much exposure to the person. The tape is the tape. We've seen it. We've seen it in the fall. We're watching it to this very day. But getting as much exposure to the people is going to help us.